in pre-production of one of my newer Xbox adaptive controllers, and I don't yet have a good name for it. This originally came out of a concept I had and others have had called what I call pseudolog. So it is the ability to have a digital on-off button act like an analog controller. So there were two sources of inspiration for this. First off, the Warfighter Engaged folks with their Quad Ds, which are a series of digital buttons that use 3.5 millimeter cables to the back of the Xbox controller. So I really like that concept because I've had some users who don't want joysticks, they want to use buttons. And I also took a look at the work that Barry Ellis has done on his One Switch site, which is a device that allows 4 different switches to connect to a converter box, which then goes into the Xbox's USB port. So kind of the three minds working together there has resulted in this device. So what it is you have 4 buttons, 4 directional buttons. So it's going to be up, down, left, right. And it will connect to the Xbox adaptive controller using the USB, meaning that it will act like either a left or a right analog stick. So this will act like a analog stick with the Xbox adaptive controller. So the buttons are built in, so you just choose your direction. You can kind of hold your hand like this if you have hand motion or whatnot. So, and these are 30 millimeter arcade buttons, low profile arcade buttons. So it is pretty thin, as you can see. It's not very tall. Now, I understand that folks also want the ability to use their own switches. So this is where I combined the ideas into one. On the back of the unit, you can see there are 4 3.5 millimeter jacks, up, down, left, and right. So you can either use the built-in buttons, or you could ignore them and use these buttons. These will connect to your own buttons and switches that you already have using the standard 3.5 1/8" cabling. So instead of going into the back of the unit and only having digital, you plug them in here and it will act like analog. Well, how does the analog work? A switch is a switch, it's on and off. So the way that I call it pseudolog, because the longer you press, the more it will push that stick forward, back, left, or right. So if you just tap it, the stick is going to move a little bit forward, then return to center. If you hold it down for a second or so, it will swing the stick all the way to the full limit position. And I'm going to be configuring this so you could change the sensitivity in the field. So that will be part of the software that's built into here. Let's see what else. You have that. From a pricing standpoint, this one is going to be a little bit higher than my other sticks. We're probably looking in the range of about $90 or so, because it is a more unique device, and because this one, unlike some of my other devices, is really quite labor intensive. Now, one thing I'll mention, this is part of my R series, R for repairable. So the case will not be glued. You could pry it apart like I just did. But you can see in here, I have to hand solder all of the jacks, hand cut and tin all these wires, solder the switches, which is not a whole lot of fun, and then zip tie everything so it's nice and neat, and then finally solder everything to the microcontroller. So it does take me more labor, and unfortunately, as we know, labor is the most expensive part of all of these devices. So there it is. I've yet to come up with a really cool name, but it will allow you to send analog controls left or right through push buttons, either the push buttons built in or externally. And you can have two of these, so you could have one for left and one for right if you so desired. So this is in pre-production. This is kind of the final pre-production version that I've been printing, and I'm going to start soldering stuff up, and it will be listed in just a few days. Thanks for watching.